welcome back to the channel. Last time we worked on the Audi TT, I noticed this little radiator in the front. I don't know if you can see it in there, maybe in there, is the AC condenser, and it was leaking. So there's water all over the floor. So what I'm going to try and do today is get the front off. So all this front, not the headlights, they stay on the car, but all the front comes off and should give us access to the crash barrier, crash bar, and the radiators. Now what we're probably going to have to do is we need to take some trim off, like this black plastic trim which is held on with various clips, and then underneath this I believe there's a metal strip with like Torxy screws that we have to take off, and there'll also be a bolt where the seam is here. There'll be a bolt in that corner, so we may have to take the front edge of the wheel arch liners, which means jacking the car up and taking the wheels off. So we've got lots to look forward to. So I'll start by taking this top cover off and then we'll work our way from there. Right, these are number 30 Torx, so I've taken two out on either side. We've still got these in loosely just to hold it on, and this whole piece is just a metal strip separate to the bumper. Now we have to sort out getting in the wheel arch. Now I've managed to take the wheel off, and what we now need to do is get inside this liner. There'll be a bolt holding these two together which we need to release, because this is the wing at the top, bumper at the bottom, and there's a couple of Torxies here. These are the same as the ones that hold the under tray on, which means they're rusted beyond belief. So there are some a bit further up which I managed to get out, which look in fairly good condition. I'm hoping if I can get this one out, there'll be enough to bend that out of the way, and not have to take the whole liner out. This one is foobarred. I'm going to have to drill this off. I have got some new ones of these. I bought a pack of about 20 of them, £4 or £5 off eBay. Well worth doing. I've changed all the ones on the under tray underneath because they were just gone. These are going the same way, so we'll change these. In fact, I'll do all of these under here. So I'm just going to drill this head off. Maybe then I can screw out what remains of the thread with the pliers and put a new one in. But we'll deal with that when we come to it. Right, well, I've got to show you this because it defies belief. So there is, in the front inner wing, there is a plastic piece like that, all held on with the little, that's one I've destroyed, like that. So a self tapper with a Torx, yeah, 20 or 25, I can't remember, and then I folded the arch liner back to be able to get in here. Now there's a little Torxy right at the front here where the metal wing and the plastic bumper join together. So there. Now a bit further up, I use my torch, you can see there is a very pointy thread there with a nut on it. Fairly easy to get, 10mm, no problem. A bit further down, can you see it? Yeah, look. Can you see it in there? Good God, it might be able to see it a bit better in there. Right at the top corner of that intercooler, there's another bolt. Brilliant design by Audi yet again. You need to be an octopus to get that one off. In the end, what I've done is, I'm lucky I bought this Hilker socket set, because it's got a small 10 and a little wiggly fitting, the old knuckle fitting, an extender, and then my ratchet, and I managed to get the bolt off, the nut off, sorry. They look like this. So they've got a like captive cup washer thing and a nylock nut. That's going to be good fun getting them back on. Why the hell they decided to put them there, I don't know. So I think now all you have to do is, like with a lot of bumpers, you just like pull it and that should come off. I have got two Phillipses under the bottom there, which are, well, rusted beyond recovery. I'm currently recharging up my little Dremel. I think I'm going to have to cut them off with the grinding wheel on the Dremel, because they ain't coming out. Even with a massive ratchet with a screwdriver bit, no, not a chance in hell. So I'm going to have a look in my little manual to see how we get this off. And then essentially we've got to do this all on the other side of the other side of the car in the other wheel arch. So what I might do is put this arch liner back for now, put the wheel on a couple of wheel nuts, and then I can rest this on the floor, because I've still got to order the condenser, and then we'll do it all on the other side. Okay, we're back round the other side now. I don't know if I mentioned this before, there are 2 extra screws, and let me show you that, underneath here. So there's the black plastic piece here, it wraps around under the bumper, and there's 2. Ironically, these look like they're stainless, so they come out in really good nick. So why don't you fit these everywhere, Audi, eh, you tight buggers. Right, so we've got just the 2 bolts. I've took the Torx out the corner, and we've got a bolt there and another bolt. Can we see it easier on here because there's no intercooler on this side? Where is it? It's in here somewhere. Is that it? There. So 2 10mm to take out. Then all I've got to do is deal with the 2 underneath the front. Right, so I've taken the clips out. There's 3 each side, and then these 2 parts joined together. They look like little fingers, so they come apart. And on this side, on the left side, so this would be the driver's side, there's a little pointy bit here that slides into a socket on there, so that can be moved out of the way. And this side, there's a little hook which goes under this like battery cover part. And then underneath there is the metal strip. I've taken some of these out already, just left 2 in just to hold it on. So there's this metal strip that goes all the way across. So let's give all this a good clean when we get it off. And then when we take these 2 out, the top will be loose. We just have to take everything else out. So the last challenge is to get these out. There's 2 red tabs underneath the front bumper here. Both of mine are jiggered. So one there, one here, and I'm just going to cut these off with the Dremel, with the little cutting wheel on, and then we should be able to get the front off. And she's off. So once you get them bottom ones, the front just literally lifts off. Now you can easily see now where it's been leaking on this one. There are 2 Torx, one there, one underneath, one in there, and one in there. But that is connected on the other side to this dryer, which I've got my finger on now. And there is a connector top and bottom on there, which looks like they're hex keys. So that could be a bit more of a challenge to get to, and then to get the radiator out. But I'll take the Torxes out and we'll see what comes to bits. Right, it rapidly became obvious that we need to take much more of the front off. So I've taken the crash bar off, which is 3 big bolts, and for some strange reason 2 Phillips self-tappers, which don't seem to achieve anything, to be perfectly honest. They only attach to the plastic. Why are they there? Anyway, the crash bar is now off, so that gives a bit more room. There is a little 10mm at the side and this big Torx at the top. Now I don't know what size this is. I've got a set of Torx sockets, which I think I bought once for getting the starter motor off, and it's that one there, which is, that's a T50, but it doesn't fit, if you know what I mean. It's near enough to get the bolt out, but it's not the exact size. So what can I do? I haven't got millions of those, but they are loose. I can get them out. If I take those 2 out, the whole front is then loose. My plan is to take the front off, but only as much as I need to get things out. So lots of other videos say drain the radiator, disassemble the whole radiator assembly. I'm desperately trying not to have to do that. So So my plan is I'm going to try and disconnect the air conditioning pipe on this right hand side, and the one that's underneath the little dryer thing down there, I may have to unbolt the radiator from the inside, and I'm hoping I can finagle the condenser up past the radiator when it's all loose. But hey, let's see how successful we are with my plan. Right, bit to explain. So when I tried to disconnect the bottom hose off the condenser, I was sat there thinking, hang on a minute, what if this isn't depressured? We've had some liquid come out the condenser, but I'm not sure that means all the gas has disappeared, you know, all the refrigerant. And if you want to know, on the Audi, if you look on this nice sticker, it actually tells you how much refrigerant's in it, so 650 grams, and what kind of refrigerant it is, so R134A. I mean, if you go to somewhere that does air conditioning, they'll probably know all that anyway. But my plan was to get the condenser out without having to disconnect the radiator, get rid of all the coolant, and then have to put all that in again. And for quite a long while, I didn't think that would happen. But I've been to my local garage, they've taken all of the coolant and the dye out, as much as they can. I then came back, took the front back off again, and we're at this point. So the condenser is out. So you can get it out without completely taking the front off and without taking the radiator out. It is a bit of a faff, but I'll explain it all and then maybe you can do it. So the crash bar has to come off, which are 13mm and 2 Phillips for some strange reason. I think I've gone over that before. Same on both sides, and that also holds on a lot of this black plastic. You have to take off the Torxy one here, which is quite big. You may even be able to get that out with like grippy pliers on the outside if you haven't got a big Torx. The front will then come so far out. What I did then was I undid the little Torx self-tappers, which look like this. They're also quite rusty, so good luck with those. And they are inside these little holes on both sides. You can see them quite clearly and they're easy to get out. That hole's down there. So this is then loose. So what we did then was we had to disconnect the air conditioning from the condenser. So it's taped up there. One goes in that side, the other side goes in the bottom of this silver thing, which is called the dryer. And the way it works is, you can see on the top here, there's a 6mm hex key, goes in there. Get that undone. You may have to use a tiny, I used a tiny flat blade to lever, but to be honest, as long as you're careful, you can wiggle the pipe underneath. Now you do have to be careful because these pipes are solid, a bit like copper pipe in your house. What you don't want to do is fracture it or damage it, but just a gentle motion like that was enough to break the seal, because they have an O-ring on them, and you get new O-rings with the new condenser, so you need to make sure you change those. And that pulled away, and there's no liquid or refrigerant in, so the garage did a good job. Then the plan was to get it out, which is awkward because this thing is behind the radiator. The radiator is sitting where my hand is, right up against there. Look at the state of this. And I need to try and get this out the front. Well, I originally thought I could undo the radiator screws, which are also those Torx self-tappery things, which are where these rusty points are here. So they've got like a washer ferrule thing in the front. And then the radiator was kind of loose. You could wiggle it about. So what I then did was I pulled the front as far forward as I dare get it without sort of damaging the wires that go to the lights. There is quite a bit of space, and what you have to do is you have to kind of pick the radiator up, move it slightly to one side while grabbing hold of this. And it came around the corner of the radiator, and I thought originally I was going to have to take it out the side there, but it will come out the front. The challenge now is to do it the other way around. So I've got the new condenser to put in the way I got this one out again. So we'll start putting the new one in next. So these are the two O-rings that come with the kit, and I've got the pick ready for when we put it back on. So I've taped all that up because you don't want any crap getting in the system. And I'm also, here's the new one, and it comes with these like blanking plates on both connections. I'm not going to take those off, but I am going to loosen them so I'm sure that I can actually get them off when it's in the car. So I'll just loosen these off and then finger tight them in place, and then we need to try and get this in the car. Here's something to note. This was under pressure, I presume air pressure, because when I undid that nut it went like a lorry hitting its brakes, so just be careful because it might catch you out a bit. It certainly frightened me. Right, so what I've done is I've managed to get the new one in. Obviously the radiator is off at a funny angle and nothing's connected up. So the big Torx is at the top on either side. I've pushed the black plastic piece as far back as I can just to get them in, because we need to kind of squeeze all these parts together so the screws can reach. Now the radiator is on them white plastic nylon things, and they go in a little slot. Now you probably see one there. Look, there's the slot, and the white thing slides in, and then you get the screw in the front of the screw hole there, and it'll pull it towards the front. Once we get the radiator connected in, just loosely, we can get these connected in, and there's holes in these metal bits that go into that screw hole through the hole at the front. Also we have to get it all lined up. So I'm going to try and get all 4 screws in them white things for the radiator, and then we'll fasten this up. And I also tried to take the shroud undone that's got the fans on. I've got all that loose as well. I didn't really need to do that. So note, just undo the radiator, don't undo the shroud, because the fasteners for it are in awkward places to get to. Right, so we'll screw in the radiator and then I'll come back and we'll screw in the condenser. Okay, quick update. I actually found it was easier if you fasten the condenser through these little holes into the front of the radiator first, because then they kind of move as one, and it's a bit easier to get the white plastic things in, because you're not trying to deal with 2 things that are wanting to go their own way. So now I've got the radiator screws in. There's 4 of these through the plastic, and they've got like a little metal ferrule or bushing, so they're all tight, and this is all tight. So I think I'll do the air conditioning connections next, and then it's essentially crash bar back on and the front all up onto the back of the car, and then off to the garage to have it filled up again. So we'll do the air connections. Right, one thing I didn't mention, which you ought to do first, is this connection block on the, or it'll be passenger side, which is at the bottom, i.e. not connected to the dry. It's got a little Torxy screw into the, there's a bracket on it that screws into a part on the radiator, so you need to screw that in first, because otherwise it's like hidden behind this black plastic bit. So the next bit is to take all this wrapping off, put a little green O-ring on instead of the one that's on there, and I've got me super duper pick to help me get it off, and then take that off, and that goes in there, and there's an Allen bolt that goes in to hold it on. Right, I've managed to get the dry side in. That's a bit of a struggle. The problem I'm fighting this side is that the fitting on the condenser is kind of vertical, and this is canted slightly to one side like that, and this is a solid pipe, so I don't really want to be bending that. So I don't know how much manipulation there is in the pipe that's above it, but I've got to try and bend that quite a bit. It's a bit worrying. Right, I'll have a few goes at that and I'll come back to see if I got it in. So you now join me, believe it or not, 3 days later we've now got a new condenser. I had to buy another one. I'm going to take up a warranty claim with the first company, but I ain't got time to be messing about. I need to get the car finished. So this side, you can see it does line up, and the pipe on the passenger side is in. Now what I did find was, on the other side of the condenser there's a dryer. Let's see if I can show it to you. It's this silver cylinder thing down here where my hand is, and the pipe goes on the bottom of it. Well, it was a really tight fit, trying to twist the pipe and blah blah blah. So what I found the best way to do is to take there's an Allen nut in the top. I took that out. There's a clamp on the side which I have to put back, but I took the dryer out the bottom of the car, fastened the pipe on outside the car where it's easy for me to do. I've pushed that back up, and then you can twist the dryer quite a bit with your hand and get the bolt back in. So this is a much easier way to do it if you're having problems getting it on from the bottom. All I need to do now is get the clamp on, screw that on to hold the dryer in place, and then it's the fiasco of putting the fan shroud back on the radiator and the condenser, which is already screwed to the front of the radiator, and pull all that on and then push all of this back up where it ought to be and then put the front on. We'll do that next. Okay, so essentially we're connected up now. We've got the connection on the bottom of the dryer. The dryer is now connected at the top. We've got the clamp shut, and on the other side we've got the pipe connected there. The condenser is fastened to the front of the radiator, which is 4 screws that, let me show you an example. So the condenser screws onto the front of the radiator into the plastic surround with these. This is the wrong one. This is a Phillips, but they're all T30 hexes. We've now got some of these to screw the fan shroud into the radiator. I took this off early doors because I thought this would give me access. I might have to take this out to get to the radiator. So this is loose. So I need to screw that on. Then we can look at doing these bolts up and aligning all the front. Then it's going to be a crash bar back into these holes. So I need to get them holes in the right place. Get that lined up. In fact, it might be better to put the crash bar on before we do those. I've actually managed to snap off this sensor, which fits there. Yeah, I'm going to super glue it and then JB weld it on the sides. I've super glued it once and it fell back off. And then once we get the crash bar on, we should be able to get the front painted piece on. Well, I'll screw the radiator surround on first, and then we'll continue filming after that. Right, here we go. I found these. These are the hex ones. There's 4 of them. That's for holding the shroud on. What I've just remembered is the ones like this with the Phillips are the ones that go in these holes. One there, one there. I don't really know what they achieve. They only screw into the plastic, and they don't seem to fasten to anything, so that's a bit bizarre. So I don't know, if anyone knows what they're for, let me know, because it's got 3 massive bolts holding the crash bar on, and then these 2 little Phillipses that just screw into the plastic. That's very weird. Right, I got the cover on now. Crash bar is on. I think these 2 little screws here and one at the bottom there, I don't know if they're to hold it on temporarily, because they don't connect to anything else, so you're just screwing it to the plastic, and then you can use the crash bar to lift it up to get the 3 bolts in, because the holes won't just line up. And then you can lift the bar and get the 3 bolts in, and just tighten them up on both sides. So crash bar is on, and also the 2 10mm bolts, one either side, on the bottom of the wing that goes into the plastic at the side. So I've tightened those up, and now all I need to do is get my Torx, that isn't the right size but still works, to tighten these 2 bolts up at either side, and then effectively the front is fastened on, and we can look at getting the painted piece back over the top. I have managed to pull this off, but it looks like it just clips on. That goes, it's an air intake for the intercooler that's hidden in the wing, so I need to clip that back on first, and I need to repair this sensor thing that I broke by touching it with my leg. So I'll start gluing next. Okay, so I've super glued it on using a bit of activator, and now I've just smeared some JB weld either side. JB welds just like Araldite. I think it's got metal in it, anyway, it's indestructible once it's on there. It's way better than normal epoxy in my opinion. I've never had a JB Weld joint fail, and I'm pretty sure it takes high temperatures as well. So hopefully that should be one and done. So now just fit that on, and then we can go to putting the proper front on. Okay, so we've roughly got the front back on. Just to recap, the crash barrier I had to take back off because I noticed that the rubbers next to the lights had got pulled inside, so I undid the bolts, took the crash bar off, pulled it back off, lined up the rubbers, pushed it all back on again. It's a pain, but it doesn't take that long. So to put this on, I suggest start on one side so you can get this piece behind the headlight. Line up the two, there's two quite long bolts that go through here, and bang that in with your hand to lock it in, and then push everything back. There's a bolt that we have to put in just inside the wheel arch, and obviously nuts on there and there, and then the same on the other side. Then we've got two tabs underneath that screw. They're the hex type ones. So I'm gonna line up all these. There's 6 hexes along the top. Then it's I'll show you these when I do these, and then the bolt in the corner. So we'll do those. Okay, so front bumper's on. I've put the 2 screws in the 2 front tabs underneath back in. Now we've got the wheel off on the passenger side, and the liner, which was undone anyway, I've just put the other side of the disc just to hold it out of the way. And get the light. We've got the nut to put on there, and then slightly higher up there's a nut to put on there, and then also we've got one to go in that little hole in the corner, and then the same on the other side. The other side's slightly harder because there's a dedicated intercooler in here, so it's a bit more fiddly, but it's essentially the same as this side. Okay, right, that's all done. I've started putting the screws back in for the wheel arch liner, one at the top there, one here. These are just those self-tappery looking hexes. All this here with the holes, and these put the under tray on and fasten all the plastics together. They're in a bit of a mess on this car because they've been apart and together over the years so many times that, you know, that stuff's dropping to pieces now. But it'll be fine. So what we need to do is jack up the other side and do the same thing. Okay, right, we're down around the other side, and this is full of intercooler. Now the top one is quite easy to get to. There's plenty of space. You can just spin it on with your hand, and then you do need a long reach 10mm, one of them, because the thread is so big. You know, a normal socket, once you've got it tightened up so far, it's just not going to work. Now the awkward one is, can't we even see it? I think you can just see it there, look. There it is. It's really awkward to see. The best way to get that one on is to put the little nut between your 2 fingers and go over the top of this metal piece, because over the top there I can feel the thread. I'm spinning it up now, so the nut is on, and I'm sure you can hear the nut being spun onto the thread. It's awkward. Even more awkward is now going to be doing it up, so I might have to, I don't know if I can get the socket in, I might have to get a 10mm spanner in to do that up, but at least that's the last one. And then we just put the arch liner back in, and then it's the liner underneath, which is always a pain. You know, if you've ever done an oil change on one of these cars, the fact you have to take the under tray off every time, and there's 7,000 screws which are all rusty and horrible. So do your best. Worst case scenario is a little 10mm spanner. What right, quick update. I had to swap to this one. This is another long reach 10. This is the small one, the 1/4 inch. The other one's just too big to get it on straight onto the to the nut, whereas this one's nice and thin. I appreciate you won't all have these, but unfortunately that's what you need. Thank Audi for putting an intercooler in the way. I mean, why? You know, it could have been so much easier to just put 2 bolts on the same piece of metal. Well, there you go. So that's done. Now it's arch liner in and all the screws back in for that. Right, arch liners are in, wheels are back on. We're back on the ground. Essentially it's done now, apart from me taking it back to the garage to get it filled up. I think my biggest takeaway from this is just how spare parts availability now, the quality of the spares, it's just rubbish now, isn't it? I've had to buy 2 supposedly guaranteed fit items. One didn't fit at all, the other one I kind of made fit. Still not really happy about it, but what do? You know, unless you want to go to Audi and pay £400 and £500 for a condenser, I don't know. Anyway, if you need to do this, I hope this video's helped you. If you get anything from it, please like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll see you in the next one.